Warning: this video contains graphic content. If that gave you chills, I already know one thing. You're a fan of Band of Brothers. Let's uncover the true stories of the men behind Easy Company. What did they go through? What did you miss in the series? And what happened after the war? In this episode, George Luz, Joe Toye, and Darrell Shifty Powers. This is the story behind the legends. George Luz brought humor and levity to Easy Company. In the series, Rick Gomez portrayed him with quick wit and boundless energy. Born in 1921 in Fall River, Massachusetts, to Portuguese immigrant parents, Luz grew up during the Depression. He dropped out of high school to help support his family, and when the war came, he chose one of the most dangerous paths available: the paratroopers. In training, Luz quickly showed his unique gift. Not just bravery, but mimicry. He could impersonate anyone. His famous impression of Major Horton really happened, and it got Captain Sobel in trouble.
Is there a problem, Captain Sobel?
Who said that? Who broke silence?
I think it's Major Horton, sir.
What is the goddamn hold-up, Mr. Sobel?
Luz never got caught, and the men never forgot it. The only difference with the series is it took place at night instead of day. On D-Day, Luz got lucky, and not for the last time. Just before the jump, he swapped seats with Roy Cobb in their C-47. Moments later, a German anti-aircraft round tore through the space Cobb had occupied, wounding him and keeping him from making the drop. Luz made it out, landing in Normandy to fight through the chaos of the invasion. As Easy Company's radio man, he carried communications under fire, a lifeline between units. In Carrington and Holland, and later at Bastogne, Luz kept the company together not only with his radio, but with his humor. In frozen foxholes, when shells were falling, his jokes and impressions were sometimes the only warmth the men had left. And yet, unlike so many others, Luz was never struck by a bullet or shell fragment, despite being in the front lines of nearly every battle.
George Luz here. Has never been hit. You're one lucky bastard.
Takes one to know one, Skip.
He did, however, earn a Purple Heart, not from enemy fire, but from an injured ankle. His son later explained, "My dad had an ankle injury after the jump when they were in Holland. The injury report states the causative agent was an ankle joint crushed between objects." Later, he injured himself again after stealing a German motorcycle and crashing it. That accident kept him out of the famous Easy Company group photo. But Luz wasn't untouched by the war's brutality. During the bombardment that took Joe Toye's leg at Bastogne, replacement commander LT Norman Dyke ran off, claiming he would get help.
I'm gonna go for help.
Luz looked at Carwood Lipton in disbelief and muttered,
What the f***?
before mocking Dyke's words to other men. Moments later, another shell landed. Luz was blown off his feet and began crawling toward the foxhole of his friends, Warren Muck and Alex Pencala. Seconds later, their position took a direct hit. Luz clawed at the shattered ground, desperate to reach them, but all he found were fragments of the men he had laughed with the night before. Still, after all the horrors he witnessed in combat, he focused on the positive side. In an interview, he said, "I feel today that I made friends that money can't buy. One of the best things that ever happened to me was when I went into the airborne." His last jump wasn't in Holland, as he tells in this interview.
The last time I made a jump was in Holland. No, wait a minute.
I mean, you haven't jumped since you got out?
No. We have to make a jump about once every 3 months to keep your jump status up.
Okay.
So just before I came home, I made a jump.
After the war, Luz went home and tried to build a quieter life. He worked as a maintenance consultant at the Little Rhodey machine shop in Rhode Island. But fate was cruel. On October 15th, 1998, while working, an industrial dryer fell on him, killing him instantly. At his funeral, more than 1,600 people came to pay their respects. To Easy Company, George Luz was never just a man with the jokes. He was proof that even in the darkest moments, laughter could keep men alive. He was 77 years old. Joe Toye wasn't the kind of man who talked much, but in combat, he was one of the fiercest soldiers Easy Company had. In the series, Kirk Acevedo captured his toughness and grit. Born in 1919 in Houston, Pennsylvania, Toye grew up in a working-class family and worked as a machinist before enlisting. In Easy Company, he rose to the rank of sergeant and quickly earned a reputation as one of the unit's toughest fighters. Winners called him one of the best combat soldiers he had. He couldn't wait to get to Europe to fulfill his own mission.
Hitler gets one of these right across the windpipe. Roosevelt changes Thanksgiving to Joe Toye Day and pays me 10 grand a year for the rest of my fucking life.
At Brecourt Manor on D-Day, Toye had a close brush with death twice. He was nearly struck by friendly fire grenades during the attack, and one blast even sheared the stock clean off his Thompson. Still, Toye pushed forward, fearless under fire. Later, Toye's image in Band of Brothers carried one detail that wasn't true. In the series, he's shown punching a German prisoner with brass knuckles. In reality, it wasn't Toye at all. The man responsible was a desk-bound soldier from headquarters who struck the POW with the handle of an old knife. Buck Compton threatened to have him court-martialed, but the soldier was killed in action before that ever happened. Through Normandy, Holland, and Bastogne, Toye was wounded multiple times but always returned to the line. In Bastogne, shrapnel tore into his arm. He made his way back to the lines, and on the way, he gave these war correspondents a quote they probably weren't hoping for.
How do I feel about being rescued by Patton? Well, I feel pretty peachy about it if it wasn't for one thing. We didn't need to be fucking rescued by Patton. Got that?
Winners wanted him to go back and recover, but Toye refused, determined not to let his men fight without him. 2 days later, on January 3rd, 1945, his luck ran out. A German shell exploded nearby, blowing off his right leg. His closest friend, Wild Bill Garnier, sprinted through the fire to reach him and lost his own leg seconds later, right beside him in the snow. The two men lay together, bleeding, but alive, before they were carried to safety.
Hey, Joe, I told you I'd beat you back to the States.
Toye spent the next 9 months in hospitals, enduring multiple surgeries, including an operation to remove shrapnel from his back, before finally being discharged at the Army Hospital in Atlantic City. He would walk with a prosthetic for the rest of his life. Despite his hard exterior, those who knew Toye best remembered another side. In his memoir, Don Malarkey described him as quick-witted, hilarious, Irish as hell, and even an incredible cook. After the war, Toye struggled at first, especially with his severe wounds and adjusting to life with one leg. In time, he found his way forward. He married twice, had 4 children, and later became the grandfather of 8. He worked for many years as a drill bit grinder at Grace Mines in Pennsylvania. On September 3rd, 1995, Joseph Toye died of cancer in Reading at the age of 76. At his funeral, his commander and lifelong friend, Major Richard Winters, delivered the eulogy. Darrell Shifty Powers wasn't a loud or commanding presence, but he was one of the sharpest eyes in Easy Company. In the series, Peter Youngblood Hills played him with quiet humility and calm precision. Born in 1923 in Clinch Cove, Virginia, Powers grew up in the Appalachian Mountains. His father was an expert with rifles and pistols, and from a young age, Shifty learned to shoot. He spent much of his boyhood outdoors, hunting to help feed his family. By his teenage years, he was so skilled he could shatter a coin tossed into the air with a single shot. After high school, Powers took a machinist course in Norfolk, where he befriended Robert Phot.ai Wynn. Both men went to work at the Portsmouth shipyard, but when layoffs threatened, they chose a different path. On August 14, 1942, Shifty enlisted in the Army at Richmond, Virginia. His nickname came from his days as a basketball player, where his quick, elusive moments earned him the title Shifty. In training in Albourne, England, Powers was impressed by the local civilians who swore they would fight the Germans with gardening tools if it came to an invasion. To Shifty, it showed a kind of courage that stayed with him. But it was in combat where his eye saved lives. On December 29, 1944, while Easy Company was dug into the snow forests of Bastogne, Shifty noticed something odd. A tree that hadn't been there the day before. He reported it to First Sergeant Lipton, and the tree turned out to be camouflaged German artillery. Lipton led a counterattack that cleared the position within an hour, an action that likely saved countless lives. As Lipton later said, it all happened because Shifty, from a mile away, saw a tree that hadn't been there yesterday. His marksmanship became legendary in Foy. During the attack on the Belgian village, a German sniper opened fire from a farmhouse window. Lipton trusted Shifty to make the shot as he sprinted across open ground as bait.
Don't miss, Shifty.
And he didn't miss. This is the site of the shot in Toye. Shifty stood here, and the German sniper was firing from this window. Lipton ran across the street towards this house as Shifty took the shot. You can still see the bullet holes in the wall as a reminder of what happened there. The story is that Lipton and Phot.ai Win checked out the killed sniper and found a bullet hole right between the eyes. Winners would later call him the best shot in the entire company. Unlike many of his comrades, Shifty was never wounded in battle. Ironically, that became a curse. Under the army's point system, he hadn't accumulated enough to be sent home, despite having fought on the front lines every single day. To give one man from each company a chance, a lottery was held. In the series, the lottery is rigged, and it seems that really was the case. In his own book, he wrote that he saw a lot of men smiling at him during the lottery. Unsurprisingly, Shifty won.
Sergeant Darrell C. Powers! That's how it's done, Shifty!
But on the way to the airfield, the truck carrying him crashed. He was badly injured, and another soldier, who also won the lottery, was killed. In the end, he got home later than most of his buddies. After the war, Powers returned to Virginia. He married, worked as a machinist, and raised a family. He never bragged about his skills or sought recognition, but his comrades never forgot. And he never forgot them. In his own words,
I don't believe there's very, very, very few heroes that came back from the war. They're still over there.
His story was later preserved in the book Shifty's War, written by Marcus Brotherton. For Easy Company, he will always be remembered as the man who could see what others missed, and who never missed when it mattered most. Darrell Shifty Powers passed away in 2009 at the age of 86. Which Easy Company member would you like to see in the next video? Let me know in the comments.